I was scrolling Instagram one day and saw this meme. I don't know if it's real, but I guess that's the video we're doing today. Welcome to episode 2000 of YouTuber with too much time makes wacky shit. Today we're turning my RTX 3070 into a PS2, and I know, why an RTX 3070? It's so old, so is your father. I'm poor, get off my phallus. If I was balling, I'd have a PS3 GPU, but no, I have a PS2, and it's not even the slim, it's the fat model. It's quite clear why. This is obviously GPU shaped, so I can see where the idea came from. I can Dremel some holes for the fans, find out how to mount the GPU inside of the shell, and bing bang boom, all done, that easy. Or so I thought. If you'd like to see me build a PC live, be sure to keep an eye out for my live stream May 30th at 3 p.m. EST. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to help me get a new graphics card for my PlayStation. But let's get into it. Like if you like it, sub if you love it, let's do it. To start, we need ourselves a broken PS2, so I ordered one off eBay for like 40 bucks, which sounds like inflation. Why order a broken PS2 and not a shell? Because a broken PS2 comes with a disk drive and mounted buttons. Shells generally do not come with those, so unless you want gaping holes in your PS2 GPU, you will need to buy a full broken PS2, or you will need to buy a shell, a disk drive, and the buttons. If you want to do this at home, you'll also need a basic Dremel. I got mine off a guy named Dexter. Cool dude, he owns a boat. You'll also need some good ass glue. I have Craggle. Lastly, you'll need a 3D printer if you're rich, some Legos if you're poor, and of course, a dual fan GPU. The Legos are because you may have to cut some screw standoffs in order to fit the GPU, meaning you'll have to have an alternative method to mount the top and bottom shells of the PS2. A 3D printer would be ideal here, but even without it, altogether, you're spending around 100 bucks on materials if you need to get a Dremel, a little Lego set, and a broken PS2. I spent like 50 bucks. The project took me a total of about 5 to 6 hours. The structure is mostly stable, and I can disassemble the GPU in about a minute. So I'd say it was a success and could be easily replicated. But don't do that. If you do that, you stole it from me. Never mind me stealing it from someone else. To get us started, we need the GPU and the PS2 completely disassembled, which is easy because the PS2 is old and the GPU is a GPU. Those only come apart in one way unless they're NVIDIA's founders cards. Next, we need to test fit and mark out the areas that need cutting. There are a few critical points we need access to. We need gaping holes for fans and power. The left side of the console needs a ton of cutting to open up space for the rear ports. And the PS2 itself is just a hair too wide to actually fit inside a PC case. So about 1/4 of an inch needs to be cut off of what will end up being the rear. Then we need to rip the disc tray cover off and mount it in the gaping hole that will be there when it's gone. And yes, the PS2 logo does rotate. 90% of this build was just me cussing and cutting shit until the GPU would fit inside the shell and everything would fit snug. I almost completely fucked myself over during the dremeling process. Here is a picture of my ceiling. That was fun. Then came the fans, which were pretty easy. I just marked out the holes on the bottom of the PS2 with the original Shroud and went to town. I planned on creating screw holes for the fans to be able to mount them, but one of my fans has a loose bearing, so I need to buy new ones anyways, and I was kind of impatient, so they're kind of glued in. I never said this project wouldn't be janky as fuck, but with a few extra cuts, you can make this project clean as fuck. I cut a gap around the fans to fit the GPU power cable so it could go underneath the graphics card instead of in the side like the meme. In hindsight, I should have left a little strip of plastic here to stop the cable from interfering with the fans, which it occasionally does, but it's mostly fine. And no one's gonna see it, so I don't give a shit. Except for everyone watching this video, but this isn't my normal content, so I should be safe. If this video does terribly well, I want you to know I'm really embarrassed about all of this. Especially this last part, because finally, over the course of a few days, with some trial and error, I added some Legos to help stabilize the shell, and I also added some Legos to help clasp the shell together. There's 2 different mounting points on both ends of the shell, and they're both kind of messily glued in there. Again, no 3D printer for shit like this. I spent the rest of my money on the new case and motherboard for this video. My old ones were tired. In fact, the hardest part of this entire build was not the PS2. It was actually replacing my case and my motherboard. Gigabyte sent me a motherboard that was an alcoholic. It couldn't remember anything even after a BIOS update and changing the CMOS battery. So I sent it back for a refund. And I left my fucking SSD in it.
I'm gonna have a panic attack. I'm gonna have a fucking panic attack right here. on camera.
So videos were delayed because I couldn't work until I had actually got a new motherboard like 3 or 4 days later. And when I got it back, I had none of my files from the last 3 years, and I was out a Windows install. So putting together the Vader 5 Pro review was hell. It took a few weeks, but I got my SSD back and now everything's working as intended. But this project didn't just spiral. It literally fucking exploded. I almost lost all my shit because I wanted a proper motherboard again and a fancy Lian case to go along with this stupid meme I found on Instagram. And it was all worth it. The final product is not perfect. It has some rough edges, some things don't fit perfectly, and behind the scenes it's a little jank, but the overall result is exactly what I was looking for. I want to look at this PC and go, holy fuck. And I do that. And based on the comments section, a lot of other people do that too, so mission accomplished. Above all else, this actually works and is like a stable structure. Cooling is a big question. And sadly, this is going to sound ridiculous. I don't actually know how bad the cooling is, because the card performs the same that it did before I swapped the Shroud out. Despite replacing the thermal pads and paste with a thorough clean, my card has never run lower than 77 degrees. Under 91% usage, the card sits at around 70, but once it hits 97 or above, it shoots to 77 to 83 degrees, and it's never changed. And despite time and money spent to resolve this, I've never fixed this issue, so this card has probably like a serious problem, but it works. So it's like this or an RX 578 gigabyte. Plus, I've carefully designed this with a team of engineers to ensure maximum compatibility. The shell comes apart with a little bit of effort, and ideally in the future I could replace my card with another dual fan card like a 5070 or a 5070 Ti. And I actually am confident that I can keep the card at least semi-cool. Like I said, my card doesn't have worse cooling, it has the same cooling that it did with the Shroud. Not that it's good, but maybe if I had a card that didn't have like a fucking heatsink leak or something, maybe it actually would run decently cool. Anyways, this is, and I really don't care how this sounds, this is the coolest shit I've ever made. Niggas ain't got shit on the NVIDIA, Sony, GeForce, RTX, PlayStation 2 Ti. And I did this after the universe stole my files, stalled my uploads, stalled my PC build, and then dropped the Steam controller on me right after. And if you would like to struggle as much as I did, I'll leave some links in the description. All right, listen, be honest. You had a chuckle watching this tech slop, right? Well, I know I have a lot of controller videos on the channel, but I am going to be branching out and doing more shit like this in the future and as we go along. Again, I even have a live PC build planned for the 30th at 3 p.m. and a video on that build will immediately follow. I also think I might do a video on the 3070 or the RX 578 gigabyte in the Big 26 because of how the market's been. I think those would be decent videos. Let me know what you want to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are still watching, just know this project almost took my life. Losing my files was seriously that stressful, and this was meant to just take a day. And it took like 3 weeks. So I appreciate each and every one of you who came out to watch me suffer. Truly. Next video, I shouldn't be suffering as much. Actually, I don't know. There's a lot to do with that one. I will probably have one more upload before my live stream at the end of the month, so subscribe and keep an eye out for that. Check out the Patreon and the Discord and the Instagram and the Twitter and the something about soulless self-promotion. Anyways, I love you guys. See you in the next one. Take it easy.